needs to ask for what she wants and give herself permission to have it. Did you have to parent them?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
When I was about 13 or 14, my mom, she had a really bad accident. She fell, and her back was really messed up, so she was in hospital a long time. And so I was a surrogate parent for a moment.
Where was Dad?
Working, had to make a living, had 6 kids.
So what would it look like for you if it were different? If you didn't have that responsibility and if they weren't leaning on you, what would your life look like? What would you be doing?
Oh, I would have soared higher.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people don't understand, my second bankruptcy is because I was sick. I have lupus, and my show in Vegas got canceled.
And the insurance wouldn't cover
The
it.
insurance didn't cover it, so I had to pay myself. And so
That's a lot. That was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money to put up a show. People don't understand this. If you see a concert, you see the lights, you see the band on stage. The artist pays for all that. The hotel rooms, the salary.
For years, the relationship between Toni and Tamar Braxton has been filled with love, loyalty, arguments, and moments that left fans wondering what was really happening behind the scenes. But now, Birdman's name is pulling that family drama back into the spotlight. The biggest question is simple: what actually happened between Toni and Tamar when Birdman entered the picture? Tamar has previously pushed back against rumors that she and Birdman were romantically involved, insisting that their relationship was platonic and even saying that she was the person who introduced Birdman to Toni. Yet as old tensions between the Braxton sisters continue resurfacing, fans are taking another look at everything that happened. Was there really jealousy between the sisters? Did Birdman know about the tension? And why did Tamar's name keep coming up whenever Toni's relationship became a topic? Tonight, we are breaking down the claims, the family tension, and the moments that made this story impossible to ignore. Because the truth may be very different from the rumors. The story between Toni and Tamar Braxton is complicated enough without adding a famous rapper and music executive to the middle of it. But once Birdman entered Toni Braxton's personal life, old rumors, family tensions, and questions about loyalty suddenly became part of the conversation. And the reason this story continues to attract attention is because Tamar herself has addressed one of the biggest rumors surrounding the situation. According to Tamar, there was never a secret romantic relationship between her and Birdman. In fact, she has publicly described Birdman as a friend and said that she was actually the person who introduced him to her sister Toni. That detail completely changes the way many people look at the story. Because online rumors often create a completely different narrative. When fans see two celebrities connected to the same person, speculation can immediately turn into accusations. And in the Braxton family, where disagreements have frequently played out publicly, the situation became even easier for people to misinterpret. Toni Braxton had already established herself as one of the most successful singers in R&B. Her career had made her a household name, while her sisters, including Tamar, were also building their own identities in entertainment. Tamar was outspoken, energetic, and never afraid to address controversy. Toni, meanwhile, often maintained a more private image. So when Birdman became connected to Toni, fans naturally wanted to know how that relationship developed. But according to Tamar's own account, she wasn't trying to compete with her sister. She wasn't secretly pursuing Birdman. She was simply introducing two people she knew. And that is where the story becomes particularly interesting. Because Tamar later explained that she had known Birdman before Toni became romantically involved with him. She said their relationship was platonic and rejected suggestions that there had been something inappropriate between them. Still, once Toni and Birdman became a couple, the public began connecting dots that may not have actually belonged together. The rumors became even more complicated because Toni and Tamar's relationship has had its own history of conflict. The sisters have disagreed publicly over career decisions, family matters, and personal issues. Those disagreements have sometimes created the impression that there was deep resentment between them. But sibling relationships can be much more complicated than what audiences see on television or social media. Two sisters can argue intensely and still love each other. They can disagree over relationships while remaining family. And they can experience years of tension without one incident defining their entire relationship. That distinction is important here, because some online discussions have attempted to frame Birdman's involvement as evidence of a major betrayal between Toni and Tamar. But the public record doesn't establish that Tamar secretly pursued Birdman, or that she intentionally tried to interfere with Toni's relationship. Instead, Tamar has repeatedly denied the romantic rumors and explained her side of the story. So why did people believe there was more? Part of the answer may simply be the personalities involved. Birdman is one of hip-hop's most recognizable figures. Toni is an R&B legend. Tamar is a reality TV personality and singer known for being extremely direct. Put those three names into the same headline, and controversy is almost guaranteed. But there is another layer. Tamar's relationship with her sisters has often been discussed publicly, especially because the Braxton family turned some of its private disagreements into reality television. That exposure gave viewers access to arguments that most families would normally keep behind closed doors. As a result, fans sometimes felt like they knew the Braxtons personally. They picked sides. They analyzed conversations. They searched for hidden meanings. And whenever one sister made a statement, people immediately connected it to something another sister had said months, or even years earlier. That environment created the perfect conditions for rumors to grow. A simple introduction could become a conspiracy. A friendship could become a supposed secret romance. And a disagreement could be interpreted as proof of betrayal. But there is still one question that keeps coming back. If Tamar really introduced Toni and Birdman, what happened after that? How did their friendship turn into Toni's relationship? What did Tamar actually think about her sister dating Birdman? And was there ever a moment when Toni confronted Tamar about the rumors? These are the questions fans continue asking. Because the public knows Tamar's version, but that doesn't necessarily mean every detail of the story has been revealed. And that's where Birdman's role becomes particularly interesting. Although much of the public conversation has focused on Toni and Tamar, Birdman was also a central figure in the relationship. His connection to both women gave him a unique position inside the story. But having a connection doesn't automatically mean there was betrayal. And that's something viewers should remember as the rumors continue circulating. The most sensational version of this story may be the easiest one to click on. But the actual story appears to be much more complicated. Tamar says she and Birdman were friends. She says she introduced him to Toni. And she has denied the idea that she had a secret romantic relationship with him. So instead of assuming the worst, the bigger question is what happened after that introduction. Because that's where Toni and Tamar's complicated sisterhood, Birdman's relationship with Toni, and years of public speculation begin to overlap. And once those three stories collide, the Braxton family drama takes an entirely different turn. Toni Braxton, Tamar Braxton, Birdman, The Braxtons, Braxton Family Celebrity News, R&B Hip-Hop News, at Toni Braxton, at Tamar Braxton. Once Toni Braxton and Birdman became romantically connected, the story surrounding Tamar suddenly became much bigger than a simple family introduction. The internet wanted answers. If Tamar had really known Birdman first, did Toni feel uncomfortable about that? If Tamar had introduced them, why did people later assume there had been something romantic between Tamar and Birdman? And most importantly, was there actually tension between the sisters because of him? These questions became increasingly difficult to separate from the broader history of the Braxton family. Toni and Tamar had already experienced their share of disagreements, and because so much of their lives had been documented publicly, fans were constantly looking for clues about what was happening behind closed doors. That made Birdman's appearance in Toni's life especially explosive. Tamar, however, has pushed back against the most controversial version of the story. She has said that her relationship with Birdman was platonic, and that she was the person who introduced him to Toni. That claim is important because it directly challenges the narrative that Tamar was secretly involved with Birdman and then somehow lost him to her sister. But rumors don't always disappear simply because someone denies them. In celebrity culture, once a story becomes popular enough, people often begin treating speculation as though it were established history. Every old interview gets replayed. Every facial expression gets analyzed. Every argument gets connected to the rumor. And suddenly, a complicated family relationship gets reduced to one dramatic question. Did Tamar betray Toni? There is no reliable public evidence establishing that she did. What is clear is that Tamar and Toni have had periods of disagreement. Their differences have included personal and professional matters, and their relationship has sometimes been tense in front of cameras. That history made the Birdman rumors easier for people to believe. But there is a major difference between family conflict and romantic betrayal. The two should not automatically be treated as the same thing. Tamar's personality also played a role in how people interpreted her behavior. She has always been known for speaking openly and defending herself when she feels misunderstood. That means when rumors involving her family appear, she doesn't necessarily stay quiet. Instead, she may respond directly, which can create even more headlines. And once the public sees a celebrity defending herself, some people interpret the response as evidence that there must be something bigger happening. It's a vicious cycle. A rumor appears. The celebrity denies it. The denial becomes another headline. Fans debate the denial. Then the original rumor becomes even bigger. That appears to be part of what happened with the Birdman discussion. Tamar's explanation, that she knew Birdman as a friend and introduced him to Toni, offers a very different interpretation of the situation. Instead of a secret love triangle, the story becomes one about two sisters and a man who was already connected to one of them socially. Then there is Toni. Unlike Tamar, Toni has generally maintained a quieter public image when it comes to personal controversies. Her relationship with Birdman attracted enormous attention because Birdman was already famous in his own right. The pairing brought together two major names from different parts of the entertainment world. Fans wanted to know whether they were serious. They wanted to know what caused their connection. And they wanted to know how the Braxton family reacted. But celebrity relationships rarely exist in isolation. When two famous people become involved, their families and friends can become part of the public narrative whether they want to or not. That was particularly true here because Tamar had reportedly already known Birdman. And because Tamar was Toni's sister, the internet immediately created its own storyline. But the available public information doesn't establish that Toni and Tamar had a major falling out specifically because Tamar wanted Birdman. That's an important distinction. There may have been personal conversations and disagreements that the public never witnessed. There may have been emotions that never appeared in interviews. But unless the people involved confirm those details, viewers cannot responsibly turn speculation into fact. The situation also demonstrates how difficult it can be for celebrities to maintain boundaries. Imagine introducing someone to your sister and later watching the internet accuse you of wanting that person's partner. Even if the accusation is false, it can still affect family relationships. And that is where the emotional side of Tamar's response becomes understandable. She has spent years dealing with public narratives about her family. Sometimes she has been criticized for being too outspoken. Other times she has been criticized for defending herself too aggressively. But silence can also be interpreted as guilt. So celebrities often find themselves trapped. Speak up, and the story gets bigger. Stay silent, and people assume the rumors are true. For Tamar, addressing the Birdman narrative appears to have been an attempt to make her position clear. She wasn't presenting herself as Toni's rival. She was saying that the relationship between her and Birdman was friendship, not romance. And she emphasized that she introduced him to Toni. That version of events places the responsibility for the romantic relationship where it belongs, between Toni and Birdman. It also removes the idea that Tamar somehow secretly competed with her sister. But then another issue enters the conversation. The Braxton family has always had a complicated relationship with public attention. The sisters became known not only through music, but also through reality television, where disagreements could be shown to millions of viewers. That meant their family arguments became entertainment. And when audiences become emotionally invested in a family, they often start choosing sides. Some viewers identify with Toni. Others identify with Tamar. Some believe both sisters contributed to the tension. And others simply want to know what happened behind the scenes. That is why the Birdman story continues to resurface. It's not just about Birdman. It's about trust. It's about sisterhood. It's about what happens when private relationships become public entertainment. And it's about how quickly the internet can turn incomplete information into a dramatic storyline. The most important takeaway is that Tamar has publicly denied the romantic interpretation. She has said her relationship with Birdman was platonic and that she introduced him to Toni. So if Birdman eventually provides more details about what actually happened, his perspective could add another piece to a story that has been surrounded by speculation for years. Until then, the unanswered questions remain. What was Birdman's relationship with Tamar really like before Toni? What did Toni think when her sister introduced them? And did the sisters ever have a serious private conversation about the rumors? Those questions are exactly why fans continue watching. Because sometimes the most explosive part of a celebrity story isn't what everyone thinks they know. It's what nobody has publicly explained yet. Toni Braxton, Tamar Braxton, Birdman, Braxton family celebrity drama, The Braxtons, RNB News celebrity news at Tamar Braxton, at Toni Braxton. After years of rumors, arguments, interviews, and social media speculation, the biggest question surrounding Toni Braxton, Tamar Braxton, and Birdman is still the same. Was there ever really a secret relationship between Tamar and Birdman? Based on the public statements available, Tamar has strongly denied that idea. She has described her relationship with Birdman as platonic, and has said that she was actually the person who introduced him to Toni. That changes the entire narrative. Instead of a secret love triangle, the publicly known version is much simpler. Tamar knew Birdman. Tamar introduced Birdman to Toni. Toni and Birdman developed their own relationship. And then the internet began connecting dots in ways that created years of speculation. But the reason this story refuses to disappear is because fans know the Braxton sisters have experienced complicated moments over the years. Their relationship hasn't always been perfect. Like many siblings, they have disagreed, argued, reconciled, and sometimes allowed cameras to capture deeply personal moments. The difference is that their disagreements happened in front of an audience. That audience remembers everything. A comment from years ago can suddenly become relevant again. A disagreement that seemed minor at the time can be reinterpreted after a new rumor appears. And that's exactly what happens in celebrity culture. People don't just watch today's story. They go back through the archives searching for evidence that supports their favorite theory. But there is a danger in doing that. A family disagreement doesn't automatically prove a secret romantic betrayal. A tense conversation doesn't automatically mean someone was hiding an affair. And knowing the same man doesn't automatically mean two women were romantically involved with him. Those distinctions matter. Especially when the people involved are family. Toni and Tamar have both built careers that depend heavily on public attention, but their family relationships are still personal. And the more people speculate, the harder it becomes for them to control their own story. For Tamar, the rumors appear to have been particularly frustrating because she has already given her explanation. She says she and Birdman were friends. She says she introduced him to Toni. And she rejects the idea that there was a secret romance between them. So if Birdman himself ever provides a detailed account of what happened, that could potentially answer some of the questions fans have been asking. But until then, viewers should be careful about treating internet theories as confirmed facts. There is another reason this story matters. It demonstrates how celebrity families can become trapped inside narratives created by outsiders. The Braxtons have had their family life documented for years. That exposure can create a strange relationship between celebrities and their audience. Fans begin feeling like they know the family. They watch the arguments. They watch the celebrations. They watch the breakups. They watch the reconciliations. Eventually, some viewers begin believing they understand the family better than the people inside it. But that's impossible. A television show gives us selected moments. An interview gives us selected answers. Social media gives us selected posts. None of those things provide the complete picture of someone's private life. And when it comes to Toni, Tamar, and Birdman, there may be conversations and experiences that the public will never know about. That doesn't mean there is a hidden scandal. It simply means celebrities have private lives. And that's something audiences sometimes forget. The most interesting part of this story may therefore be what it reveals about the power of rumors. One claim can begin with a question. That question becomes a social media post. The post becomes a video. The video becomes a headline. Then thousands of people discuss the headline, as though the original question had already been answered. Eventually, the rumor becomes part of the celebrity's public identity. And that's incredibly difficult to reverse. Tamar has had to deal with that cycle firsthand. Her name has repeatedly been connected to dramatic narratives involving family, relationships, and entertainment. Yet her own explanation remains consistent on the Birdman issue. She has said the relationship was platonic, and that she introduced him to Toni. So what about Toni? The important point is that Toni's relationship with Birdman should be considered separately from rumors involving Tamar. Toni and Birdman were adults making their own decisions. Whatever their relationship looked like privately, it was their relationship. And Tamar's involvement, according to her account, was simply that she knew Birdman and helped connect him with her sister. That doesn't automatically create a scandal. It creates a story about three people whose lives happen to intersect. Of course, the emotional history of the Braxton sisters makes everything more complicated. When sisters disagree, outside observers often assume there must be one major reason. But family relationships rarely work that way. Sometimes tension develops over years. Sometimes disagreements involve money, careers, relationships, communication, or completely private matters. And sometimes siblings simply see situations differently. That is why reducing Toni and Tamar's relationship to Birdman would probably miss the bigger picture. Their sisterhood existed before Birdman. And it continued beyond him. The real question now is whether the family can move beyond the old rumors. Could Toni and Tamar eventually speak openly about what happened? Could Birdman finally address the speculation himself? Or will fans continue debating a story that may never receive a definitive public explanation? Nobody knows. But one thing is clear. The next time you see a headline claiming that Birdman revealed everything, look beyond the headline. Ask what he actually said. Ask whether the claim comes directly from the people involved. And ask whether the story is based on facts, or simply another version of an old rumor. Because the Braxton family has already given the public plenty of unforgettable moments. They don't need strangers inventing new ones. Toni is Toni. Tamar is Tamar. Birdman is Birdman. And their individual relationships deserve to be discussed based on what they actually say, not what the internet wants the story to be. So perhaps the real revelation isn't a secret affair, or a shocking betrayal. Perhaps it's simply that a friendship, an introduction, and a complicated family history were turned into something much bigger by public speculation. And until Toni, Tamar, or Birdman personally provides more details, the unanswered questions should remain exactly that. Questions. Toni Braxton, Tamar Braxton, Birdman, The Braxtons, Braxton Family, Celebrity News, Celebrity Drama, RNB News, @Toni Braxton, @Tamar Braxton. If this story gave you a completely different perspective on Toni Braxton, Tamar Braxton, and Birdman, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another major celebrity story. Now we want to hear from you. Do you believe Tamar's explanation that her relationship with Birdman was strictly platonic? And what do you think about her claim that she was the person who introduced Birdman to Toni? Could there be more to this story that the public still doesn't know, or have years of rumors simply made a family situation look more dramatic than it really was? Drop your opinion in the comments, but keep the discussion respectful. And if you know someone who follows Toni Braxton, Tamar Braxton, Birdman, or the Braxtons, share this video with them and let them join the conversation. For more celebrity drama, unexpected revelations, and entertainment stories making headlines, subscribe now. Toni Braxton, Tamar Braxton, Birdman, The Braxtons, Celebrity News, Celebrity Drama, RNB News, @Toni Braxton, @Tamar Braxton. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.